Conquering the apostrophe. Whose versus whose? Hello, English language learners. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that often confuses many people: the difference between whose and whose. These two words might sound the same, but their meanings are very different and they're used in different contexts. Mastering this can significantly improve your English grammar. So, let's get started. Firstly, let's look at whose. The apostrophe here indicates that it's a contraction of two words, much like don't is a contraction of do not. In this case, whose is a contraction of who is or who has. You'd use whose when referring to a person and wanting to say something about them. For example, who's going to the store? Who is going to the store? Who's already finished their homework? Who has already finished their homework? Now, let's turn our attention to whose. Unlike whose is not a contraction. It's a possessive form of who, used to show ownership or association. For example, whose coat is this? Whose idea was it to come to this park? It's easy to mix up whose and whose, but remembering the apostrophe rule can be a big help. If you see an apostrophe, the word is likely a contraction. So, whose should remind you of who is or who has. If you're talking about possession, you'll want to use whose. Incorrect usage example: who's coming to the party? Incorrect, because you mean to ask, who is coming to the party? So, whose should be used. Correct usage example: who's coming to the party? Correct, because whose is a contraction of who is. I hope this explanation has cleared up the confusion between whose and whose. The key is to remember that whose is a contraction of who is or who has, and whose shows possession or association. Keep practicing, and before you know it, you'll be using these words correctly without even thinking about it. Thanks for watching, and happy English learning!